right, so we are on to shape and form exercises. We're going to be working with texture and gradients in this week's assignments. There are different ways that you can create value, and value creates, either texture or dimensionality to an object in a drawing. So how you create that value is up to you. There's different styles, and those different styles have different looks to them. So it kind of just depends on what it is you're trying to do in your drawing. So what I want to have you do is I want you to choose something in your house with a smooth surface so that you can see the value really well. I have a picture of a bottle here that I'm going to use for today's demo. And I also want you to put it in a place where it has light shining on the surface. So it needs to be something that kind of reflects light. It needs to be something that reflects light so that you can practice using your value in relation to not only giving something dimensionality, but kind of giving a, showing that there's also light, because three dimensions and light are the two things that create depth. Now you create depth in your composition using you use different depth cues to create depth in your composition. And we'll get more into this as we get into perspective and creating compositions that represent more space. So anyways, let's go on to part one. So part one of this week's assignments is the bottle exercise. So you're going to set your bottle somewhere in your house, light reflecting it. We're going to use all four of these techniques: hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, and then last but not least, blending. So one good thing to do before you get started is you can practice creating value with these different textures just by making kind of a stripe on your paper. So let me go ahead. I'll just go ahead and do it here. So let me go ahead and demonstrate practicing cross-hatching just in like a line or kind of a strip. Actually, let me make my pencil a little bit smaller. So you guys can do this. I would suggest using a darker pencil, so like maybe your 2, 3, or 4B for this, for the hatching, cross-hatching, and stippling. In fact, I might even have you do your fine point Sharpie probably for the stippling. And then for the blending, you can use your darker and lighter leads. So anyways, let's practice hatching. And what I want you to do is I want you to get real dark, and then I want you to practice progressively getting lighter and lighter. So what you should be doing is actually using the amount of lines that you're putting down, and get lighter and lighter over time. Now, cross-hatching works the same way, except you've got lines that are crisscrossing to create value. So with the cross-hatching, it would be something like this, where you get lighter both ways over time. Okay? The stippling is a little bit different. So let me go ahead and I need to make that bigger. Let me just erase what I've done here. The stippling, you will want to use your fine tip Sharpie for this. I highly recommend it. Because then you don't have to like push your pencil down and make a dot. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it does really take a long time. Stippling is generally the most hated texture technique by students across the board because it takes forever. So, you won't have to do any more stippling in this class unless you absolutely want to. But anyways, with stippling, it's creating value with dots. So you start with a thicker area. Let me make my brush quite a bit bigger here so you can really see. There we go. All right, so this is really exaggerated and large, but just to give you an idea. So you start with, a dense amount of dots, and then it gets lighter. Maybe even the dots get lighter over time. and you create value that way. It should be really dark up here. Anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and start with this bottle exercise. So what I suggest, let me just get rid of this image here. Actually, I'll make it a little smaller so that I have more room to draw on here. Okay, and just gonna go ahead and erase that. Okay, so what I suggest you do when you start out, we'll just start with the hatching. So I suggest that you start out with the contour lines of something. And so we practice this in gesture drawing, right? So we're gonna start out with the contour lines. Your drawing doesn't need to be perfect. We're just practicing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw out the contour of this bottle. I think it needs to go up and come in a little bit more. So use, what you learned from gesture drawing. And so we are nowhere near rendering something realistically. That is for down the road. So don't worry about that. I'm just going to kind of sketch out the lips here on the bottle. And there's a kind of a curve at the top here, the top of the bottle. Okay. So your sketch can look something, it can look something like this. My bottle's a little bit wider, but that's okay. And so what I want you to do is I want you to use cross hatching to try to replicate where the value is light and dark. So we're really just kind of mapping out light and dark value right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go in and start cross hatching some areas. So I'll be fast forwarding this. I don't want you to watch it in real time. That's too much. So let me go ahead and go in and do some cross hatching. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for where the value is dark on the bottle, and I'm going to map that out onto my bottle over here, okay? So we're just starting out with hatching. So all of your lines should be going in the same direction. I'm actually going to go in and just clean up some of my lines here from sketching. Just a little bit. You can see I've got this one line that kind of comes down like so. All right, then I'm going to go back in and continue to work Okay, so, just keep working at this. Now, this is a study, this is it looks like it has a little bit of dimensionality to it, but it's really about mapping value and texture and understanding how to use those. So, don't worry, we're not doing photographic, highly rendered sort of drawings. I would say spend about 20 minutes on each one of these. You can split your 4 studies onto one piece of drawing paper. I suppose I should have said that. So you can split your paper like this, it doesn't matter whether it's landscape or portrait. So you got your hatching, cross hatching, and so forth. Okay. For the blending, I'm going to do a little bit there. Let's see. Let me go ahead and erase this bottle. So when you do the blending exercise, this is kind of bring everything together, and this is where you're going to be very, very careful in considering where value is and how it's blended together. And this is, rendering in a blending mode is the most realistic 3-dimensional way in the sense that it has the most amount of detail. So let's go back to our bottle here. I'm just going to sketch out a contour again. Hopefully I'll do a better job. Let's see. So yeah, go ahead and just slightly sketch out contour there. Somewhere in there. Oh, my bottles are always fat. Let's see if I can get that in a little bit. Okay, so with the value study here, it's all about blending. So what you want to do in this one is we've got some nice blended areas kind of down here towards the bottom of the bottle. So I'm going to kind of start there. So I'm going to start here in this center area because it's got the darkest value. So it's kind of got a harder line right here, and then it gets softer as it goes outward from there. All right, and so when you're blending, I forgot to do like a practice stripe. When you're blending, one thing that's good to do to practice this is just start with your pencil and pushing really dark and hard for a dark value, and then slowly making your way up so that it's lighter and lighter. And then going back over it and smoothing it out. The other thing that you can do with your pencils is you can take a paper towel and fold it and use it as a smudger to smudge your lead around, which is really nice. So I definitely, they have these things that you can buy. I'm blanking on the technical name of them right now, but you can smear, everything really technically that way, but I didn't have you guys get them. I was just trying to keep things simple. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to go in and add value. Add dark value to where there's dark value on your bottle. And you're going to try to blend everything where it's blended. Now there are some areas that have hard lines. Like, let me switch to red so you can see. So you want to look for where your hard lines are at, right? We've got this that's clearly very light in value versus darker. So this is where your hard lines are going to come in. And then you're going to have your more blended lines in these types of areas. Right, and then it gets really dark over here. And then you can come in, and this is where the white paint comes in, or your eraser. Either one will work. So you can go in, and you can use an eraser to do these fine details at the end. And this is what really makes light realistic in the end, is coming in, and you can just make these subtle lines. So I like to use paint to do this stuff because then I'm not smudging anything. The eraser tends to be a little bit intense. And then even like these really light, like maybe this area, I'd want to come in with paint and just make a hard edge. And here too would be a good spot for paint. You can also use pencils that are white sometimes, but it's paint to me is the easiest thing. But everybody has their own way of doing things. So yeah, what I want you to do is draw these 4 bottles. Oh my gosh, sorry, my infant's getting very upset. Draw these 4 bottles with these different types of texture. And, that'll be part one of your exercises for this week to turn in. So, okay, I'm going to stop because Max is getting crazy mad. All right, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions, okay?